Hi, I'm Terrell Turner, and you are about to hear us talk about how to turn the hype into actual profit in your business. So stay tuned. So today we are talking about a topic that a lot of business owners have because sometimes they're like, I got thousands of followers on my Instagram. I got a bunch of people retweeting me. I got a bunch of people on my Facebook or LinkedIn or your TikTok or whatever. Or, hey, when I look at my physical restaurant or my physical business, my physical store, I got a lot of people talking about it. I got a lot of people showing up. But when I look at my bank account, it's a completely different story. And unfortunately, that is a very, very common thing that people hear. They're like, I got a ton of people showing up. But when I look at the bottom line, after everybody else gets paid, and when I look at my bank account, for some reason, it doesn't look too pretty. Like, so what's going on? So we are going to definitely talk about that. So when you hear that scenario from people, what's one of the first things that come to mind for you?
Your expenses are too high or your prices are too low.
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one. So if you're going to look at, if their expenses are too high, like where would you start to really try to figure that stuff out? Like let's say you're talking to a business owner and they're like, all right, I heard Miss Lola say either my expenses are too high, my prices are too low. Like, how do I figure out if my expenses are too high?
I think the first thing I would do is look at your people. Like how many employees do you have working in the restaurant? And do you have a set schedule of when people come in? And is that set schedule tailored to when you're busy? Or do you have the same level of people regardless of the time in the day? Like, do you know what days are your busiest? Do you know what days are your slowest? And have you tailored your schedule of your employees to basically align with that? Because sometimes when you go to restaurants and you find there's like multiple servers standing around and there's basically like 5 customers in the restaurant. And you're like, all right, like who did this schedule today? Or you have a situation where you have not even just restaurants. Like if you just think about like when you go into not grocery stores, or you go into like other businesses, like, where people selling clothes and stuff like that, where you have too many people working there and you're like, all right, there's only 5 people at a time. There's only 5 customers that are walking in. So you have people that are idling around, not really having much to do. And then sometimes you have situations like if you go into like a Chipotle or something where like you have less amount of people, but the restaurant is extremely busy. Like I think a classic example of that was the restaurant we went into today for lunch. So yes, that would be my feedback. I think that would be the first thing that I would look at.
Gotcha. So, I think that's one of those things that if you haven't noticed, like in our business, we work with a lot of restaurants. So if you'll hear us mention restaurants in there or talk about restaurants, that's why. But I do think what you're saying, the concept of it relates to just about any business, because for most businesses, people are going to be your largest cost. Now, agreed. I'm not saying if you're not seeing enough money on the bottom line, you immediately go, oh, I need to fire people. Yeah. I'm not saying that. But I do think it is something that you got to look at to see, hey, am I using my people the best way possible?
Exactly. And I think firing people is the easiest, quickest approach. Like it may be, to your point, the quickest solve to cut cost, but it might not be the smartest option because like you said, are you using your people in a smart way? Just like I talked about the scheduling, and are they coming in at the times? Maybe it's a situation where it's not that you have too many employees. It's just like you said, you're not using them properly. Yeah.
Because I think one of the things that I've seen to be very common with business owners is part of it is it's like you may have too many people working at the wrong times, like you said. Yeah. Like the times when you're really busy, you're missing people. But then times when things are slow, you got a lot of people. Now, a lot of that comes into scheduling, because I remember back when, like I said, before I started my career, with working in like, department stores, working in fast food and stuff like that. A lot of times my focus wasn't on, hey, how do I show up to help the business make the most money? It was just kind of like, hey, it was a time I got to kick it with some of my friends or coworkers that I had befriended. Yes, I did my job amazingly, but it wasn't until like I kind of matured as a worker to start realizing like, hey, how do I make sure that we're getting things done, like working through rush hours and stuff, and starting to learn like, hey, this is why the manager sent me home early because, hey, business was slow that day. Or, hey, this is why the manager wanted this person to come in at 8, this person to come in at 10, this person to come in at this time. It's just like starting to realize like, oh, they're managing their resources and putting us where we're best needed. Because the worst thing was to work in a department store where there's no customers in the store and everybody's going around trying to find stuff to refold so they don't get sent home early.
It's hilarious. No, but I agree with that. And I think another point that I was going to make about that is also giving yourself time, especially if you're a new business owner. It's going to take time to kind of learn the cycles, right? Of when you're really busy, when things are slow. And sometimes you may have an off day or off couple of days. Like, that's okay. Like, just being patient with yourself. Like, what would you say, like with some of our clients, is kind of in the typical time frame before you can start to really like assess a pattern, like properly kind of assess, all right, these are my busier days, these are my slower days?
I would say it was the earliest I've seen has been about 4 to 6 months.
Okay.
Like from like literally like they started from scratch. Now those that started a franchise is be a little bit different because they can look at some of the other franchise compare data.
Yeah.
But someone that completely started from scratch, like they had to do the build out. There was nothing there. They weren't buying an existing business.
Right.
Like it took about 4 to 6 months for us to really see the data. And then depending on the nature of it, because we have some clients that are bakeries that also sell ice cream, to where in the summertime, you're going to have ice creams and go through the roof.
Right.
Kind of October through early March, or actually, late March, ice cream's going to go down. So you're going to see the trends swing. So I think it really took about 4 to 6 months to really start to see the patterns.
Okay, got it. No, I think that's a good page. And so I would say, like, as a business owner, my recommendation would be give yourself time to kind of assess it and see what the time frame is. Like, even for us, what would your advice? Would your advice be any different for like a service-based business owner that may not necessarily be selling a product?
I think for a service-based business, oftentimes, I think if you got a lot of hype about your business, I think it's more of a price thing, which we'll get to that one.
That's good.
Because there's something else I wanted to say on the expenses before we get our likes. So for businesses, I always tell them is definitely put your bookkeeper, your accountant to work. Like if you have a bookkeeper, you have an accountant, like they should be watching those numbers. And what I would do is just ask them to do a basic comparison of all your expenses as a percent of the revenue. Like you're paying them, their job is to help you run your business. So ask them to do it. Now, if you don't have a bookkeeper or an accountant, give me a call. But in all seriousness, you do want, that's what they're there to help you understand and analyze those type of things. Because when you compare all of your expenses as a percent of your revenue, and you start to think about it this way, let's say, for example, if you are the cost of your payroll is, let's say if it's 40% of your sales, and let's say the cost of your rent is 10%, the cost of supplies is 5%, and the cost of something else is, let's say, 2%. What that really means is that if people are 40% of your cost, that means for every dollar that comes in the door, 40 cents of it immediately goes to paying your people. Which means you only have 60 cents on every dollar to cover everything else, plus to try to get a profit at the end.
No, that's good context.
And when you start to think about it that way, you start realizing like, wow, if every dollar that comes in the door, I immediately have to take 40 cents of that dollar, put it over here to people, and this 60 cents has to be enough to cover everything else. like you really start to think differently about the expenses in your business.
No, I fully agree. And I think also another thing also that your bookkeeper can do for you is help you identify where there's inefficiencies. Because I think once you look at the employee labor cost, I think that's a very big part of most businesses. But I think on another front is just other general expenses in your business. And I think for me, I divide it into 3 different categories. I think there's expenses that are critical for your business. You need to spend that money, rent. You need those expenses to run your business. There's no getting around to people, things like that. And then I think there's a second category, which is expenses that are nice to have. Like, you pay for them. They're like, for example, like if you're going to have, I don't know, internet and you're going to have cable in your restaurant, stuff like that are not necessarily critical for operating your business, but they're nice to have. Then I think there's the other things. This is the third category that your bookkeeper needs to help you identify, which are those expenses that you signed up for this package a year ago, you haven't gone back and used it or whatever, you signed up for the subscription, you're not using it. Leverage your bookkeeper to help you really break your expenses into those 3 categories to understand like what is critical. I know I need to do this. This is a needed expense of my business. What's nice to have to where we have some flexibility if we need to make some adjustments. What is an area where I'm spending money I don't need to be spending? And oftentimes you'll find that there are a lot of things in that category 3 that you signed up for that were relevant for your business at the time when you signed up for them that are no longer relevant. And so I would say really task the person that you're paying, your bookkeeper, to help you identify those categories, have some discussions, and then that'll also kind of help you assess like, all right, where do you need to make those adjustments?
Awesome. I love it. I love it. Now, to go on to service-based business. Now, this one, my opinion is a lot of times for a service-based business, if you have a lot of hype around your business, like you're getting a lot of press, people are constantly talking about you, you're getting a lot of phone calls and stuff, and you're servicing a lot of clients, but you're not seeing on the bottom line, I tend to think that is a pricing situation.
Yeah.
Because when you think about if you're a service-based business, a lot of times you don't really have a ton of, other expenses. Let's say I work with a ton of lawyers. And you look at doctors, or you look at dentists, or even accountants. I mean, when you look at the service that they're providing, or even consultants and coaches, I mean, usually the cost is really their time.
Yeah.
And if you're looking at and you're saying, all right, I'm spending all my time servicing these clients and I'm sending them bills, but I'm not seeing on the bottom line, what that probably means is maybe your rates are too low.
Yeah.
And so one of the exercises I tell people to do is, you know what, you got to take a step back and you got to plan. How much money do you want to make in your business? I mean, like realistically, like, how much do you want to be your take home, And I know everybody will say some ridiculously high number, like I want $5 million.
This is on an
And I always say, you know what? No goal is unattainable with the right strategy, the right time, and the right will to work and execute. So I'm like, okay, you want a $5 million business? Cool. All right. Here's what the game plan looks like for you to have a $5 million business. Can you execute at this level? And then they usually are like, ooh, nah, I probably can't do. I probably don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, cool. What are you willing to do? And then let's draw that picture out. And what I found a lot of times with a lot of service-based business is they weren't charging a high enough price. Part of it was, they were afraid that people were going to say no because their price was too high.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I always tell them is like, we got to really look at, if you're in a service-based business, we really got to look and see, okay, all right, what's the value of your product or your service? And then as we start to understand the value, we ask ourselves, how much value does the customer place on it?
Yeah.
Because what I have seen a lot is that service-based businesses would say, well, people won't really buy my product if I raise the price. And I could easily go out online or go somewhere else and I'll find other people who have a very similar product in the same city who are charging 3 times as much. And I'm like, people are willing to pay.
Yeah.
You just are probably targeting the wrong people,
right?
Or you don't know how to explain the value of what you do.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. That's a really good perspective. That's really, really good insight, because I do think oftentimes people are afraid to charge because they're concerned about losing the customer and not being able to get the business. But I'm like, capitalize on the hype, like capitalize on the fact that people are coming in. And I think in some respects, like especially for a service, if you're offering a great, now hopefully people aren't coming to you just because of the price, because they're getting the quality of, they feel like, oh, I would charge someone else would charge me 3 times as much, but I'm getting the same level of quality or sometimes a better quality. I would say, I think for me also recognizing that, I think one of the points that you made about, hey, when I look at other people, they are charging a higher price, they're charging 3 times. So I think also doing your research in your market, in your city where you are, to understand what is the going rate for the services that I offer. Because I think for us, even when we started, like talking to other people and understanding, oh, wow, like the prices that people charge are very different from what we charge. And I think it helps kind of establish that value in what you're doing, to just say, okay, like I can charge more. And I think also another part that people don't really oftentimes, well, people notice it after they increase their prices, is the type of clients that you attract as well. There's a very big difference when you have clients at level X and clients that are at this part of their business, or customers at this part, where it's like the right type of clientele is willing to pay for the quality of service that you have to offer.
Yep. And I think that also does help with solving some of the hype, because one of the things that I've told a couple of businesses is that if you pitch your services or your product to 10 people, and if 90% of the people say yes, your prices are probably too low.
Yeah.
Because there should be some people that look and they see the quality of your product and they see it, they want it, and then they see the price and they're just like, okay, all right, it may not be something that they can pull the trigger on right now. Mm-hmm. Or it may be something that, hey, I need to go move some stuff around to figure it out. But if 9 out of 10 people see your product and they say yes with no question, it may be a sign that your price is too low. I mean, and I compare it to an example like this. So, for a lot of people that, love basketball, or they're familiar with basketball.
Yeah.
If LeBron James was as it was a free agent and the teams could bid on LeBron James. And what I do know is that some of the teams, even when LeBron James was a free agent, not every team actually tried to get him because they couldn't afford him.
Yeah.
I mean, and it was one of those things like, if 90% of the teams in the NBA could afford LeBron James, what I would say is his agent isn't doing a good job, because that price is way too low. Like, you really don't want to do business with everybody. You want to do business with the right people.
Yeah.
Kind of like you said, when it comes down to, when every business that I've gone through where we've raised the prices in a smart way. We didn't get ridiculous and be like, all right, you need to just jack your prices up. Like, no, let's be smart about it. Mm-hmm. And when they raised their prices, what ended up happening is that they started attracting the right type of customer. Now, they didn't have as much hype around them as they did before.
Yeah.
But now they were able to start focusing less on the hype of the people who were window shopping, and they were able to focus a little bit more with the people who were actually there to actually buy and actually get the value from what he had to offer.
That's really good. That's really good. The right prices will keep the window shoppers shopping, keep them out. And the right prices will bring and attract the right people that are right for your business in. Because I think sometimes you have people come into the store looking around, just perusing or whatever. Everyone is wanting it. But I think if you have a higher level of quality, the people that are serious are the ones that are going to come in and want to do business with you. That's a really good point.
I mean, and thing is, I don't have anything against window shoppers. I mean, I think window shoppers are great, because sometimes, because I remember being in that position myself of window shopping for some stuff.
Yeah.
But what I was honest enough with myself is like, I'm not ready to buy. Yeah. So I'm not going to steal the salesperson's time and, try to trick them into like, I got the money to buy it right now. Yeah. I'd be honest with them. Hey, I'm just planning some stuff, not ready to buy now, maybe a little bit later. And if I was honest with them, when I came back later, they remembered me. We had a great relationship. Things went smoothly. So I do think like you're still going to have some people who are gathered around your business, or some people are interested in your business where they may not be ready to pull the trigger and then, but later on, after they move some stuff around, they're ready to do business with you. But it's just like that, by being able to, I guess you would say, by being able to sort out and be able to, I guess you say, slim the crowd down to the people who are more serious about it, it allows you as a business owner to make sure you're investing your time with the right groups of people.
That's good. That's good. And I think also, like you said, not discounting the window shoppers, because oftentimes, like, it's happened to us where we connected with people, they weren't in the financial position, or they weren't in the position to hire us yet. But hey, when they got to that point, they came back. So it's just even just being able to identify, hey, there's the hype. There's the hype of everybody else. There's the hype of the people that are serious. There's the window shoppers. And I think really just being able to kind of look past the fluff and really understand, when it comes to really having a business where you actually see the profit, it really comes down to converting. Because hype is one thing, and it's great, and you have all this publicity and you have all these followers on Instagram. But like we've seen with many stories, right? People are like, I have all this viewership on YouTube, but I'm not making any money, right? And so for me, I always say, like, I would rather have the quality of the clients and have a small number of clients charging a price that is what I need to be charging, than have all this hype and you ain't making no money.
No, I agree. And the last comment I'll say is that I remember having a conversation with a young lady that leading a phenomenal business. Her business does some major contracts in the entertainment industry, where, you know, like some of her clients are like Justin Bieber, Mary J. Blige, Lady Gaga, and they do a lot of the pre-concert kind of marketing for those type of clients when they do like their national tours and stuff like that. And they do a lot of the customer, or I guess you say the fan loyalty program. They manage a lot of that for those major artists. And one of the things that she was saying is that, you know, a lot of people get into this mindset of like, oh, I need to have a ton of followers on social media. And she was like, you know, I know people who have millions of followers and are making no money. And if she was like, I know people who have just 3,000 followers and they're making millions a year because they went for the quality and they didn't just focus on the hype.
Exactly. No, very, very good. I think that's good.
So thank you for tuning in to the Business Talk Library on RETV. Until next time. If you'd like to see more of the Business Talk Library, be sure to watch us every week on Tuesday nights at 6 p.m.